It happens one day. You find a large parcel on your front porch. Unknowingly, you carry it inside. You open it to discover the status quo being delivered to you. Well, yes, the status quo. Well, actually, it's a status quo manual. It's subtitled The Ideal Mother. You open the cover and flip through the pages. Page 16, giving up swearing. Oh, fuck. Page 37, appropriate topics for conversation at a party. Your children's education and your worldly possessions. You slam it shut and yelp, "This is way too confining." Frantically, you flip to the table of contents. Complacency for beginners. Trading in your bikini for a one-piece. Setting your opinions in stone. Living with compromise. You crumble beneath the weight of this expectation. No! And then you ask, what if I don't go by the book? Complete and utter anarchy! Whoa, I didn't see that one coming. Let's be perfectly clear here. The status quo is not synonymous with goodness or morality. These things exist in abundance outside the status quo. What the status quo is the widest path, normality, what the dominant population is asserting. The path that if you stray from it will cause questions. Okay, now don't get me wrong. I know that some of our social conventions are good. Precautions have their use. Hot stoves are hot. What I'm talking about is that subtle monitoring force that expects your blind allegiance, that expects you to relinquish your ability to discern for yourself. The status quo wants you to dumb down, mother. It will tell you who to trust and who to fear. First of all, make sure you and your children fear strangers. The status quo actually stores much of its fear concerning children in this ever-looming stranger that hardly exists, so that it doesn't have to look inside its own homes and families for pain and abuse. The status quo targets the homeless, the mentally ill, and the misfit as the stranger. The stranger you should fear, mother. And speaking of fear, make sure you and your children fear drugs. While the status quo indulges in its liquor cabinets and prescription avoidance drugs, but still somehow miraculously asserts that problems with drugs come from outside their four walls. So, mother, declare your allegiance to the war on drugs, even if you thought it was your right to try them when you were younger. Oh, but now these are big fat buzz topics, aren't they, mother? Admitting you've done drugs? That will never do. Why, that would raise questions. Talk about it. Ding dong. I'll get it. Hello? Oh, another package. Delivered by society to aid and abet in the taming of the mother mind. Oh, look. It's absolutes. You know, I'm not so sure that infallibility looks good on me. It's so sheer. I know my mistakes show through. So why not talk about it? Our doubts, our fears, our mistakes, what we're not sure of, in front of the kids, with the kids, with each other. Don't we know our children are already scrutinizing our every word and action and already see right through us? We teach them to pretend they don't see what they see. We could admit that we are what they see. Well-intending, imperfect people scrambling in the wake of our desire to be perfect parents. Talk about it. take a load off. They're listening. Talk about it. Or they might just start to play the game. You know, Status Quo Junior, the board game. You look at the game board and read the spaces. Talk to me when I was standing with a group of my friends. Go back 3 spaces. Bought me those expensive pair of Nike tennis shoes. Go forward 2 spaces. Wore a weird outfit to pick me up from school. Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Yes, the child may become more zealot for conformity than the parent, especially once they get to school and start to feel some peer pressure. Oh, speaking of schools, teachers, counselors, police officers all expect us mothers to rally behind any dictate they put forth to our children. And I know most often their intentions are good and pure and most beneficial for our children. But at those few moments when they don't seem right to us, will we have the strength to swim against the tide? The current is strong. What will we do then, Mother? Talk about it. I begin to feel so confused. I grab that accursed status quo manual and I demand, who wrote this stupid thing? Who could possibly be arrogant enough to presume to know the right way that things should be done? I open the cover to discover the author and find among a sea of names my own. Make no mistake about this, Mother. Why this is perpetuated generation after generation. This societal force keeping us women small. We, us, the community of mothers, become the enforcers. And how do we enforce? With shame. She let her 7-year-old son walk there alone? Oh, you mean she's not married to him? They all sleep in the same bed? For shame. Oh, see what your own hands are doing, Mother. But most of all, I know our mother minds get tamed by fear. By day, we most carefully watch over those babes to keep them from harm's way. And by night, dream of losing them in malls or forgetting them on buses, or worse. We're afraid for our children. We read what happens. Our minds can run away with us. Teenage boys wearing certain types of clothing become too risky to walk by. We cross the street. People of different orientations that we don't know much about. They might tell our children things we can't explain or don't want them to know. Foreign countries who think differently than us, believe differently than us, might attack, might invade, might threaten all that we hold dear. We feel out of our element. We feel scared. And then, this is the next step. And then we start justifying prejudices with that fear. And then we call that fear and these prejudices protecting our children? What are we doing? This is not my best self. I do not choose to leave a legacy of fear and prejudice for my children. I feed on acts of courage. I open to love. I am capable of trust, the kind that transforms the trusted into trustworthy. For me and my family, I choose the good stuff, the real stuff, and all the necessary pain and risk that comes with it. Mother, you and I are magnificent animals with fiercely high convictions and wild dreams of forging our own way in the world. We are huge. We have high vision We have the courage and the strength that we need because we're taking on some ugly monsters here. Is this preachy? What? Like you thought mothers weren't preachy? I say, rage against the machine, mother. Do not go gently into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of your life.